The NFL's best game-changing receiver right now is Tyreek Hill.
Getting free is Tyreek Hill.
However, he lost nearly everything before he even made it to the league. This is Tyreek Hill's journey from community college to becoming one of the NFL's quickest players ever. The story of Tyreek begins in Pearson, Georgia, a little town. Derek Shaw and Anisha Sanchez, both teenagers, were his parents at birth. They did not, however, raise him. Rather, Tyreek was brought up by his grandparents, Virginia and Herman Hill. Even though his grandparents stepped up and took him in, they had legal troubles and spent his entire youth in and out of jail. In any case, Tyreek never took their help for granted and eventually adopted their last name as a result. Tyreek's grandparents were aware of his speed at the age of 3. His grandmother was never able to keep up with him while they played catch. His grandfather therefore introduced him to athletics at the age of 5, serving as his first youth football coach. Tyreek's uniqueness was immediately apparent. On the field, no child his age could catch him, and because they knew they would get to play with Tyreek, all the kids in the town wanted to be on his grandfather's squad over the years. Hill's athletic ability was evident as he started high school. He first went to Atkinson County High School as a freshman. However, the coaching staff was clueless about how to manage a player of his caliber, and the institution was small. In order for Tyreek to attend the much larger Coffee High School, his grandparents, who had complete faith in their grandson, made the decision to be picked up and relocate 20 minutes up the road. Tyreek thrived as an athlete at Coffee, though not primarily as a result of football. Everything changed when he decided to join the track team his sophomore year. Although he excelled as a running back for the football team, Hill was among the best high school track athletes we've ever seen by his senior year. Tyreek won states in the long jump, 100-meter and 200-meter events. Additionally, his 200-meter time of 20.14 seconds was only a hundredth of a second short of the high school record set more than 25 years ago. Tyreek also participated in the World Junior Championships and Junior Nationals. He won the 100-meter and 200-meter USA Junior Outdoor Track and Field titles. Then, with times comparable to those of real Olympic sprinters, he won a bronze medal in the 200-meter and finished 4th in the 100-meter at the World Junior Championships. Tyreek's home situation was not improving, despite the fact that he was setting records on the track. He was essentially homeless for a time. He would stay up late to console his grandma while she sobbed uncontrollably since his family couldn't afford to keep the lights on. Sadly, Tyreek's unstable home life was also having a significant impact on his academic performance. Because of his exceptional speed, Hill was receiving offers from universities around the nation, but he was unable to fulfill the academic standards of any of them. He would need to attend a community college to raise his GPA if he wished to continue playing sports. He thus enrolled in Kansas's Garden City Community College. Tyreek continued to run track and play football for the Garden City Bronc Busters when he was a student there. He was a member of the Bronc Busters in almost every position. To take direct snaps, he lined up at quarterback, running back, kick returner, and receiver. They would essentially do anything it took to get the ball into Tyreek's hands. He caught 67 passes for 532 yards and 6 touchdowns in his sophomore season, in addition to running for 659 yards and 5 touchdowns. More significantly, though, he improved his GPA to the point that D1 universities were willing to consider him. Tyreek was the country's 3rd-ranked JUCO talent after 2 years of dominance. In the end, he committed to Oklahoma State, starting his D1 career as a Cowboy, despite receiving offers from a number of elite universities, including Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida State, and Texas. Tyreek also got off to a quick start as usual. He became one of the most versatile players in college football during his first season in Stillwater, playing a variety of roles for the Cowboys. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry, hauled in 31 catches for 381 yards, 740 kick return yards for 2 touchdowns, 256 punt return yards for 1 touchdown, and 534 rushing yards. With 1,811 total all-purpose yards, he was 11th in the country. Additionally, he had the 2nd highest total return yards in the country, 996. He was named the Big 12 Offensive Newcomer of the Year for his efforts. Hill was even more electrifying on the track. He became the first Cowboy to be named an indoor All-American and broke several OSU school records. Tyreek discovered the one thing he couldn't escape, the law, just when it appeared that everything was going well for him. After Hill's arrest and guilty plea to domestic abuse, Oklahoma State announced in December 2014 that he would be leaving the football and track teams. Tyreek's record made him a total no-go for all D1 schools across the nation. For almost a year, Hill had to cope with the problems surrounding his accusations, and it appeared that his time playing collegiate football was coming to an end. Then, one of the most significant calls of his life came in. West Alabama head coach Brett Gilliland made the decision to give Tyreek another chance. After being expelled from OSU, Hill had already contacted West Alabama, and Gilliland first turned him down after reading the police report. However, Coach Gilliland was persuaded to give Tyreek another chance after contacting his previous mentors and coaches. Hill would not let the opportunity pass. Tyreek made an impact in the return game, on the ground, and in the air during his 11 games at West Alabama, amassing 1,403 all-purpose yards and 8 touchdowns. But did NFL teams ignore his past because of his impressive numbers? That was the question when Hill entered the NFL draft following his first season at West Alabama. Tyreek was deemed undraftable by most clubs because to his legal troubles, despite his apparent talent. Nearly all of the major analysts predicted that he would not be selected, and he was not invited to the NFL Combine. However, Hill was prepared to perform when West Alabama's Pro Day rolled around. Additionally, his head coach was certain that more than 20 NFL organizations were interested in him when he ran a 40-yard dash in 4.29. However, it appeared that Tyreek's coach was mistaken when the draft rolled around. As the 2016 NFL Draft progressed, it appeared that the analysts were correct. Tyreek was not selected in the draft. Finally, Tyreek Hill was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs with the 165th pick in the 5th round. Because of Tyreek's past, many people in the Chiefs' kingdom were naturally furious about the decision at the time, but he quickly convinced them to change their thoughts entirely. Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, had a reputation for accepting athletes with problematic histories and giving them second opportunities. In 2013, he made the same move by selecting Travis Kelce, and in 2009, he hired Michael Vick as the Eagles' coach. Coach Reid had faith that Tyreek was improving as a person and was making every effort to atone for his previous transgressions. However, the Chiefs had no idea that they had just selected one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. So even Big Red could not have predicted what was to come from Hill. Tyreek was quite far down the depth chart as a receiver, so he began his NFL career as a return guy. However, it was immediately apparent that his pace was revolutionary. Hill achieved a still record NFL speed of 23.24 miles per hour during a kickoff to the house in Week 2. Tyreek put the league on notice after the return was canceled because of a holding penalty. The fastest man had arrived. He also solidified his self-proclaimed moniker Cheetah around this time. Even though he didn't get much playing time, Cheetah's speed allowed him to have a big impact on the game. For example, in the Chiefs' overtime victory over the Broncos in Week 12, Hill became the first player since 1965 to score a touchdown in all 3 ways: rushing, receiving, and kick return. Tyreek had an incredible start for a 5th-round pick who had no margin for mistake. He concluded his rookie season with 61 receptions for 593 yards and 6 touchdowns. But he was also the league's finest return guy and was selected a Pro Bowler and first-team All-Pro as a returner. The Chiefs then made a move that offseason that was somehow superior to risking Tyreek Hill. They selected another quarterback in the 2017 draft while Alex Smith was still on the roster. That guy, yes, but we'll talk about him later. Tyreek wanted to improve as a receiver going into his 2nd season. His speed was already well known, but could he ever be more than a gadget guy? That question was addressed in his opening game in the 2017 campaign. Against the Patriots, he recorded a career-high 133 receiving yards and a touchdown. Throughout the season, he would solidify his position as the Chiefs' top receiver, finishing with a team-high 1,183 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. He was chosen to his 2nd consecutive Pro Bowl as a return specialist after having yet another outstanding season as a punt returner. It was time for a change, though, because the Chiefs were eliminated in their opening game of the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive year, even though Hill had advanced as a receiver. Although Alex Smith was a capable quarterback, the Chiefs moved on from him and started Patrick Mahomes in the 2018 season after he failed to lead them past the hump in the playoffs. And the Chiefs' offense blew up, as everyone knows. Hill became one of the league's top receivers after Mahomes took over as quarterback. He returned a punt for a touchdown of 91 yards on his first touch of the 2018 regular season. He concluded the Chiefs' season opener with 169 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns overall, including catching Mahomes' first passing score of the season later in the same game. Something lovely began with this game. The skill sets of Mahomes and Cheetah were a fantastic match. Pat was an impossible cover for DBs because of his arm strength and ability to extend plays. How, after all, are you supposed to maintain that type of speed for very long? You don't, and the majority of teams discovered this the hard way. Tyreek recorded a career-high 215 receiving yards against the Rams on Monday Night Football, one of 6 times during that season that he went over 100 yards. Tyreek achieved career highs in all receiving categories by the end of the regular season. He returned to the Pro Bowl and was named to the first All-Pro team, but this time as a receiver after finishing with 87 receptions for 1,479 yards and 12 touchdowns. For the 3rd consecutive year, the Chiefs were victorious in the division. Could they, however, eventually create a stir in the playoffs? They defeated the Colts 31-13, and for the first time in years, they advanced past the divisional round. But like so many teams over the years, they were defeated when they faced the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Belichick had a reputation for using game planning to eliminate a team's top offensive talent, and Tyreek was no exception. The Chiefs lost 37-31 in overtime, and Cheetah only caught 1 pass for 42 yards during the game. Hill nevertheless had a fantastic season and signed a 3-year, $54 million contract extension with the Chiefs that winter. For a previous 5th-round pick, receiving a payout like that is enormous, but it also carries a new level of pressure. You must provide evidence. Tyreek also had a difficult start to the 2019 season. He missed the following 4 games after suffering a shoulder injury against the Jags in the season opener. Such injuries can occasionally persist and ruin a player's entire season, but Cheetah was an exception. Picking up exactly where he left off, Hill went for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns in his first game back in Week 6 against the Texans. With 58 receptions for 860 yards and 7 touchdowns at the end of the season, Tyreek helped the Chiefs win another division championship. However, Kansas City appeared to be a club of destiny during the playoffs. First, they defeated the Texans 51-31 after falling behind 24-0. Tyreek's 67 yards and 2 touchdowns helped them rally from a 10-0 deficit to win 35-24 over the Titans in the AFC Championship. The Super Bowl, however, was when Cheetah had his best performance. The classic matchup between unstoppable force and immovable object took place against the 49ers. The Niners' impenetrable defense against the Chiefs' potent offense. The Chiefs were once again in a familiar situation after 3 quarters, behind by double digits. The Chiefs were in dire need of a spark in the 4th quarter of 2010. So, to whom did Mahomes go on the 3rd and the 15th? Tyreek Hill. And the Chiefs didn't turn around. They would go on to win their first Super Bowl in half a century by scoring 21 points in a row. Tyreek's 9 receptions for 105 yards at the end of the game were undoubtedly the game's most crucial play. However, the Chiefs' only concern after winning their first Super Bowl was the next one. Additionally, it appeared like they will become the NFL's newest dynasty following the 2020 season. Tyreek had a career-high 15 receiving touchdowns, 1,276 yards, and 87 receptions when he rejoined the first All-Pro squad. Additionally, the Chiefs won another division title at the end of the season, finishing 14-2. Tyreek was in control during this postseason run, and KC never truly seemed like they were going to lose. In a 22-17 victory over the Browns, he caught 8 receptions for 110 yards. He then had his biggest postseason performance to date in the AFC Championship, catching 9 passes for 172 yards against the Bills as KC defeated them 38-24. However, they faced an old rival, Tom Brady, and his new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when the big game rolled around this time. The Chiefs were never really in the Super Bowl. The Bucs' defense shut them down, hitting Mahomes 10 times and sacking him 3 times. Tyreek recorded 7 receptions for 73 yards as Kansas City cruised to a 31-9 victory, but they did not even score a touchdown. That kind of Super Bowl defeat will leave you feeling bitter, but in 2021, Cheetah returned with a bang. He hauled in 111 receptions for 1,239 yards and 9 touchdowns, which was a career high. And during the playoffs, he didn't slow down. 11 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown in an instant classic divisional round game against the Bills, and 57 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers in the wild card round. However, in the AFC Championship, the Chiefs fell to the Bengals in overtime after blowing a 21-3 lead despite Hill's 78 yards and touchdown. Tyreek had 1 year remaining on a contract at this stage of his career, and he had just played well. The Chiefs offered him a new contract, but it was soon obvious to both sides that this would not work. Tyreek Hill was traded to the Miami Dolphins by the Kansas City Chiefs in a move that rocked the NFL. The Miami Dolphins received a 2022 first-round pick, a 2022 second-round pick, 2 fourth-round picks, and a 2023 sixth-round pick in return. Hill became the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history after the trade when he agreed to a 4-year, $120 million agreement. Reactions to Tyreek joining the Dolphins were not entirely positive. On the one hand, he and Jalen Waddell had formed the quickest wide receiver tandem in history. However, Tua Tagovailoa, his replacement quarterback, was good but extremely different from Patrick Mahomes. Cheetah was renowned for his ability to burn a defense over the top, whereas Tua focused more on precision and short, fast throws. What would be the outcome of that pairing? Would Tyreek's abilities be in vain? There were many skeptics. Boy, were they mistaken. We had never seen the Cheetah's down there somewhere ability in Tua's game until Tyreek unlocked it. Tua's yards per throw attempt increased to 8.9 from 6.8 the year before. However, Tua was not a one-way street. Tyreek also changed. He was being used more often by the Dolphins on short yardage passes. Getting the ball into the hands of the league's fastest player as much as possible turns out to be a very effective strategy. He broke his previous career high by catching a career-high 119 catches for 1,710 receiving yards. Additionally, for the first time in 5 years, the Dolphins qualified for the playoffs. Something was going on in South Beach, even though they lost to the Bills in the divisional round. Tyreek had a new objective going into the 2023 season, and the Dolphins fan base was at an all-time high. His goal was to have a season with 2,000 receiving yards, making him the first receiver in NFL history to do so, and it appeared that he would do it for the most of the year. He started the season with 215 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Chargers. Additionally, he became the fastest player in history to reach 1,000 receiving yards in just 8 games. Despite several late-season ailments that hindered his progress, he finished the season with an incredible 1,799 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. With an 11-6 season finale and their second consecutive postseason appearance, the Dolphins had yet another fantastic season. Hill got 62 yards and a touchdown in the game, but it was not his fault that the Chiefs, the eventual champions, booted them out in the wildcard round. Tyreek Hill's game has developed in a very unique way. The majority of top speedsters only play a few positions as deep ball specialists and returners, but Hill defied all expectations and became one of the best receivers in the history of the game. Last year, he failed to reach his 2,000 receiving yards, but Cheetah is the only one who can. Thank you for viewing. Check out some of our other videos on the screen right now, and don't forget to subscribe.